Alright, so in this video what we're going to talk about is how to establish and maintain your center of mass during a squat. I'm using two main cues that I really like to teach my clients and use myself. Just like I have had to really work hard at squatting and being able to squat, 550 pounds. I'm tall, I don't have good leverages, so I've had to think a lot about this, and so as a result, I think I'm relatively decent at teaching the squat. So there are really two main cues we're going to go over. So first is going to be pretty simple. So really this is going to be feeling the soles or the balls of our feet as midfoot. And for those of you who like what does that look like or feel like, if I'm using a shoe, for example, it's going to be like around this area of your foot. This would be like the balls of your foot, like that fleshy part of it. The reason why I like having people cue that is because it's going to allow you to have the most surface area, because if you're going to feel the balls of your feet and try to feel it, as much as you possibly can, you're going to pronate your foot and basically put it out a little bit more flat. This is actually what we want to do because of Newton's third law, which if any of you guys have taken, basic physics class, that basically states that forces come in equal and opposite pairs. So if you have basically more surface area to produce force from, you're going to be able to actually have a little bit more force output. Also, you can just stay a little bit better balance as a result of that. And now the second one, and we're going to go a lot more detail on this with some examples from myself and my clients. I'm using this is locking your knees after you find, and actually in order to find that spot is on your foot. It's basically the balls of your feet right here. And the reason why that's important is because if you kind of have a bend in your knees or whatever, and you're trying to find that, you're not actually establishing midfoot. Usually when people have a bend in their knees, they're going to shift their center of mass either onto their heels or onto their toes. Most commonly it's going to be onto their heels. Some people will bias a little bit more onto their toes, but we want to have our knees locked because that's going to allow us to have a stacked rib cage position where our ribs are over our pelvis. This is going to allow us to have a really strong spot to basically push through, because we're going to have more stacked muscles, more stacked joints that are going to be stronger. And then second off, it's just easier to create a strong brace because we have our ribs down over our pelvis. Basically means that we can basically have less air in and create more pressure because we don't have as much area or volume to basically take up in our torso cavity. So lock your knees and finding that midfoot, finding that the balls of your feet, the soles of your feet. I like doing balls of my feet, it feels like I could just connect with it more for some reason. But locking my knees, finding that position with my knees locked where I can feel the balls of my feet, and then whatever I'm doing, I'm going down into a squat. All I'm thinking about is trying to maintain that. That feeling of having my pressure focused on that area of my foot. And as long as I'm able to do that, my knees are going to drive forward well. I'm not going to fall off balance. I'm not going to go back onto my heels. I'm not going to go onto my toes. And really, I sort of fall into the right position. So I'm going to show you guys what this looks like with myself and with my clients executing it right and executing it wrong, so you guys can kind of see. All right, so I told you guys I would show you what it looks like on sort of finding your center mass with your knees locked. And then what happens if you have your knees back. So this is going to be first just a demonstration I filmed in the gym. So you can kind of see I'm showing a little bit how my center mass changes when I lock my knees versus if I have them bent. So you can see here that when you're trying to lock my knees, I'm thinking of standing tall and creating that extension of my upper back by standing tall. Really, lots of people try to overcue like chest up on the way down. We don't really want to do that. We want to basically just think of standing tall and locking our knees at the very start of the squat to create that extension in our back. And as we go down, we just kind of just want to maintain that as we allow some natural forward lean so that the bar can stay over our midfoot. This is what happens when I start to go back onto my knee. I had a little over my bent. And then my knees, you can see how I immediately shift back onto my heels here, right? So if you compare what this starting position looks like, and you come to what this looks like. So this is knees locked. You can see there, look how the bars right there, my ribs are stacked, versus I'm sort of bending my knees a little bit more right here. You kind of see how I start to fall a little bit farther back onto my heels. This is what you'll see a lot, is they'll have that sort of that pre-hinge sort of pattern, and that
makes them really commonly fall back onto their heels. Sometimes you'll find this position will happen overly biased for, but usually I don't see that happening. It's usually falling back onto the heels too much in a squat. So again, think of standing tall, locking your knees, thinking of flexing your quads can help out a lot here. And then just feeling out the soles of your feet, balls of your feet, and then just squatting down there. So here's some examples of a couple of clients that do this well, or like some, and then don't. So what I mean by that is like Antonio here does a really, really good job at the beginning of his set. You'll see right here, he's standing tall, and these are nice and locked. And you can see his first reps in the set are pretty good. He's able to drive upwards. He's not having a lot of recession onto his heels. That was a little bit more shaky. Now you can see here, see how he doesn't lock his knees as much. He's a little bit more onto his heels, and that makes that problem worse that he sort of felt on that third rep. And so what he does a lot is when he starts to get a little bit more fatigued on his squat, he will sort of bias a little bit more towards that, and the reality is that everybody's gonna have a different compensation pattern. For somebody like Antonio, who is really tall, short torso, long limbs, he's probably always going to bias to his heels. But we don't want to just go there. We want to still try to load our quadriceps as much as possible and put our torso and our femurs in particular in a really, really good spot where we can drive through that sticking point in the hole, because it's going to be really hard if you have to, if your knees shoot back and then trying to get your hips back underneath the bar and midfoot and keeping all that pressure where you need to have it. So lock your knees, keep that there. Then you can see right here with Mr. Justin, he does a really, really good job of standing tall and emphasizing control on his squats. It's really what we always cue to him, is just that control. Look how his knees are nice and locked. He's control. He's taking a midfoot pressure there, and you can see how good all of his squats look. Just boom, boom, boom. Perfect execution right here. So hopefully this provides some insight on how to execute this for yourself, and maybe helps you out with some of the center mass issues you've been experiencing. So if you just apply those 2 cues of really feeling out the soles or slash balls of your feet and then locking your knees to feel that, I guarantee your squats will feel a lot better.